Last week, Reverend Kate talked about a fairy tale, Rumpelstiltskin, and most fairy tales end up, and they lived happily ever after. Yes, well, they do if you make it happen. The power to be happy is within you. We make it happen. So today I'm going to talk about a few tips for bringing greater happiness into your life. Choosing to be happy, that's the first thing. You make a choice. You give gratitude. You live in the now. Not yesterday, not in the future, in the now. And that living in the now includes making friends with what I call people, pets, and plants. Those are all my friends. But last week, it was fun listening about Rumpelstiltskin. So I have my own fairy tale that I'll tell at the end here. And you may recall the heroine or the main character. She has asked Rumpelstiltskin to spin gold so she'll be able to stay alive under threat of death. And he wants her first child, which she agrees to give him. And but she renegotiates the deal with him, and she buys herself time. She enlists her friends to help her find out what his true name is, and they help her. So she created options and opportunities. She was successful. She saved her baby. She lived happily ever after. The importance of friends. First, I want to tell you a couple jokes. I got an extra one today, just to get me happy. Not everybody gets my jokes, but I received this email from a friend who said, my great school teacher told me we don't need to learn spelling because in the future, everyone will be using computer autocorrect. For that, I am eternally grapefruit. And for all of you out there who love chocolate, be grateful that no matter how much chocolate you eat, your earrings will still fit. So, yeah.
That's good.
And why did a mushroom go to the party?
Why?
Because he was a fun guy.
That's good.
One more. Why did the chicken go to the seance?
Why?
To get to the other side.
That's good.
Okay. So have you been watching the Olympics? Yeah? Amazing. And the joy in these people's faces, and they're so happy. And especially the people who are there for the first time. They seem awestruck. It's really fun to watch them. And I was watching them. I was on the diving team in high school, so I like to watch the divers and the runners. We watched that. But then there were some strange activities that I had never watched before. And at first I wanted to be critical, but then I said, wait a minute, just say yes. Look at the joy on these break dancers. They're spinning around and doing all these things, putting their legs behind their heads and jumping to this music that I had never heard before, and they're happy. It's like, okay, I can get behind that. They're creative, like I have never seen creativity before. So always say yes, Don't formulate a negative when you can say yes. How this happened this week is I went to see my general practitioner, my doctor, for an opinion. And as I sat in the waiting room, I saw these pictures on the wall, and they were kind of gloomy looking. And it wasn't my particular type. And I looked at it, and for a minute, I thought, I could be critical. But I stopped myself. I said, no, wait a minute. I want to be happy in my life. I choose to be happy today. So the doctor came in and I said, well, what's the backstory on these paintings? And he lit up like a little candle. And he's an older guy, he's like 60, and he said, well, those were for my father. My father came out here, he was a renowned doctor in Chicago, and he came out to LA many years ago, like 40 years ago, and he went to a street fair downtown LA. He bought these paintings, the painter became very famous, and he just, you know, he was so happy explaining to me these were his father's. And I could tell he loved his father a lot. I mean, his face was a big grin. And, you know, that's part of the reason he became a doctor, because his father was, and he was ecstatic. And it was so interesting. He said to me, you know, some people don't like these paintings. I don't care. I love them.
That's right.
Okay. You know, happiness is a result of love. The divine wants to know itself through you. It yearns to feel the joy of living, smelling, hearing, what you said about tasting, touching, loving, sharing. This is happiness. This is loving life. Quote by Paramahansa Yogananda, and you all know who Yogananda is. He said, swim in the ocean of vastness and peace and limitless happiness beyond your dreams, within yourself. Now, you have to make a choice. You have to decide to be happy. You may recall Abe Lincoln, I think it was Abe Lincoln, who said folks are usually about as happy as they make their minds up to be.
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Classic.
Classic.
Yeah.
Dr. Raymond Charles Barker, a minister of religious science, said, happiness is genuine satisfaction with your present experience. Happiness is an inside job. And in his book, Power of Decision, he says that we live in an intelligent universe. Unhappiness, sickness, worry, fear, negative feelings, that's not normal. Our ability to act unintelligently, limiting ourselves, like being sick, being argumentative, being frustrated or fearful. No, this is not your birthright. This is not who you are. This is not who we need to act out. So we're here for the delight of God. The physical world is a gift. So don't worry, be happy. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 7 says, go eat your bread with enjoyment and drink your wine with a merry heart. For God has long ago approved what you do.
Oh.
See, you already have a stamp of approval, you know? So the next issue is, how do you create in the now? Well, we're all creating. We all use our mind, which is the mind of God. We say this every Sunday. We just said it again. There's a power for good in the universe that I can use that's greater than I am. So use that good, use that power. Remember, our mind is God's mind. So you're all living your own fairy tale. You have your own dragons, ogres, evil stepmothers or fathers, evil brothers or sisters. Well, sometimes mine were a little evil. But we also have fairy godmothers and fairy godfathers and princes and princesses. And they all have lessons for us. We live a life of our own creation. You're responsible for your fairy tale. So how do we live in the now? You know, there are a lot of people who are negative and they enjoy being negative. They enjoy being happy. They keep talking about the past. They don't want to live in the present. You know, they tell you the same stories. They bring the past and drag it into the present. They want to tell you about their surgery or their divorce that happened 10 years ago. You know, we can commiserate and we can be compassionate, but at some point it's time to, don't tell that story again. Let that story go. Be right here in the now. And one way you can do that, what I call stop rehearsing, nursing, and cursing. Change your thinking, change your life. You know? And one way to do that is through prayer. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, said prayer is essential to the conscious well-being of the soul. Prayer has stimulated countless millions to higher thoughts and better lives. Prayer is its own answer. Before our prayer is framed in words, the possibility of the answer already exists. And he said something that was cute. He said, hell cools off when we think of heaven. So turn your thoughts, turn away, think of the good. Remember, God can only give us what we can take, because the taking is a mental act. We can take only what we believe we already have. And Jesus said, when we pray, we must believe we already have the answer to our prayer. And when we ask for anything, we're to believe we have it. We are to ask for that which is in unity with life. So if you believe in suffering and you like being a victim, then you will suffer. If you believe in happiness, success, and joy, that's your birthright. You will be happy. So how, in living in the now, Ernest Holmes said, never limit your view of life by any past experience. Always expect good. And he said, we should erase the thoughts of yesterday that would rob us of today's happiness. There's nothing arising out of the past that can disturb you. And don't fear for the future either. Now, I don't know if you know Lao Tzu. He was the founder of Taoism, Chinese religion. He said, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you are at peace, you're living in the now. So be active, don't stagnate. You know, walk or drive down a different street today on your way home. Buy some new clothes or a different style clothing. Become a different person. Be creative. Like I said, watch a different sport at the Olympics.
Today's your last chance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've taped it. Yeah, but it's great. It's great.
Still got parallels.
And cultivate relationships, again, with pets and plants and people. Now, 2 weeks ago, my dog died. And, you know, she was the source of joy for 16 years. She was always so energetic, cute little thing. And she was having problems and crying, and it was time to release her. But it was still a shock, and I went through the stages of grief, you know, like, how could this happen to me? And what if I had gone to a better vet? Or what if I had exercised her more? What if? And this went for a couple of days of going through grief. And, you know, finally I said, why did this happen to me? And I started to think, what is the gift behind this? And I decided to go deeper into the true meaning and stop what I call awfulizing and be in the present. What's the gift? What's the gift? Well, her joy. She was so joyful. She was so energetic. And she was always happy to see me. Like I've said before, even when I had a teenager that was never happy to see me, the dog was always happy to see me. And so I began giving gratitude for everything she was in my life. And I wanted to read you from Reverend Scott Aubrey. He does a website, he does an email. He's a New Thought minister, and he said, we can remember that every person and pet and plant in our lives is the occasion of spirit, and that we're ready to be inspired and enlightened. You know, and I feel this way about my pet and all my pets, and even my lemon tree and my orange tree. And when we lose something, it does affect us. But, I remembered, and there are many versions of the Bible, like hundreds of them, but this one is what's called the Revised Standard, and it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me." Okay, it says, I walk through the valley. I didn't pitch a tent. I didn't decide to stay there. And yes, I'm still going through a grieving process, but I'm not hanging out there. I'm going through it. But Khalil Gibran, you may know who he is. He said, "The deeper sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain." So we give thanks for all the sorrow in our life, because it helps us to be happy. And I don't know if any of you have heard of kintsugi. It's a type of pottery the Japanese do, and like a pottery gets broken, or sometimes they do mosaics and put them together, but they put them back together, but they use epoxy with gold and silver. And it's almost a light that's coming through this once was a broken vase, and it's gorgeous, and that's what you are. I mean, you may have had some times in your life that were pretty tough, and you felt like your heart was broken, but it's come back together with beauty and love and light. So we're made whole again. So in addition to giving gratitude, being in the now, getting a new routine and maybe some new clothes, you can create more friendships. The Buddha said, happiness never decreases by being shared. Great happiness comes from relationships with others. And if you believe we're all one, then look around you and see the face of the divine. So back to fairy tales. Well, actually, I wanted to read to you a special passage. This guy is one of my favorite writers. His name is Oscar Wilde. He was a British writer. And I wanted to read this because he had support from a friend that made a difference in his life. He was kind of wild and overspent and got into debtor's prison. He said, "When I was brought down from my prison to the court of bankruptcy between two policemen, my friend waited in the long, dreary corridor that before the whole crowd, whom an action so sweet and simple hushed into silence, he might gravely raise his hat to me. Handcuffed and with bowed head, I passed by him. Men had gone to heaven for smaller things than that. It was in this spirit and with this mode of love that the saints knelt down to wash the feet of the poor or stopped to kiss the leper on the cheek. I have never said one single word to him about what he did. I did not know to this present moment whether or not he's aware that I was even conscious of his action. It is not a thing for which one can render formal thanks to formal words. I store it in the treasure house of my heart." So my fairy tale, I don't know how many of you may have children and have told the story of the princess and the frog. There's this bad witch forces a prince to turn into a frog, and the spell can only be broken by a nice princess who's nice to him. And basically it's the princess is kind, the frog turns into a handsome prince. And the story of the frog and the princess teaches children to accept everyone equally, irrespective of their looks or their clothes. So the moral of the story is to accept everyone. Accept everyone. So in high school, I felt particularly like a frog. No one paid attention to me. The kids called me nerd and cowgirl because I had moved from Wyoming to California to Orange County in the 10th grade. I had the wrong look. I had the wrong clothes, especially for Orange County. Excuse me. But, sorry. What happened was a boy from another school asked me to prom. And he didn't know I was a nerd or a frog. And my fairy godmother, my mother, bought me blue slippers and a blue gown. And my prince bought me a corsage. And we danced the night away and we had our pictures taken. And we're smiling from ear to ear. And we're so happy. You know, the power of friendship can create that happily ever after. So choose happiness. Live in the now, give gratitude, and make friends. You can be a prince or princess to somebody. Thank you. So it is.